The British launched the first major attack here with about 32,000 troops. George Washington assembled about 19,000, and the British troops went from Staten Island, jumped over to Brooklyn, and attacked in two directions. They attacked along the shoreline, going along Shore Road past Red Hook. The other group went up around the Jamaica Pass and Bedford Avenue and ended up hitting the Americans on their flank. So what happened was that the Americans were outmaneuvered, really, and they ended up getting caught at Sunset Park, where the cemetery is today, Greenwood Cemetery. It's called the Battle of Long Island, but the battle really took place in Sunset Park, and it really took place at Greenwood Cemetery. It really is the Battle of Brooklyn. And the Americans got hammered. They got caught off guard. They didn't guard the passes. They didn't expect the attack from the side. And so what happened was it became a frenzied retreat. And a lot of the volunteers were not up to the task. The British came in with a lot of mercenary Germans or Hessians. And the British were well trained. They had munitions. They had, better logistics. And the Americans were pushed off the slopes of Brooklyn Heights and Sunset Park and were pushed down towards the swamps of the Gowanus Canal, towards where we are now, which is downtown Brooklyn. George Washington had fortified the area we are now with a perimeter of forts as a retreat where the troops would be safe. But the Americans had to get there, and to get there they had to pass through where 4th Avenue and 3rd Avenue now is, around, anywhere from 3rd to 6th Street. There was a house there that the British had occupied, and the British were cutting off the retreat. If they sustained that cutoff, the American army would have been destroyed, and there would have been no American army, and George Washington would probably have lost this war, and maybe there would not have been an America as we know it today. But what happened was that 400 very young troops, very polished troops from Maryland came up. They came up here to help George Washington. They directed their attack at the house to suppress the fire in the house, which allowed thousands of Americans to get through the swamp and to get down to where we are now and be able to retreat behind the fortresses here, like Fort Greene, for instance. Was named after a Revolutionary War commander. So George Washington's troops were able to escape down here. The British eventually surrounded the area, and they were ready to attack, where they could have annihilated the force once again, but nature saved us, and a fog rolled in off of the bay, and it allowed George Washington to have all of his troops escape overnight under the cover of a fog that no one could see anything in. And by the time the fog lifted, the British had no one to attack, and the army was across in Manhattan. So the army lived to fight another day.